Good day, everyone. It's Kevin Alft, CEO of Action Coach of DFW, Action Coach of Texas. Today, we got with us Dorsey Standish. Dorsey, thank you for pouring into the business community. If you would, please just build a little runway about your business. Tell us a bit about you, about your business, what you do.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Kevin. And I am the CEO of Mastermind. We are a brain health and wellness firm based here in Dallas, Texas. You might be able to see the skyline behind me if you're watching. And we partner with organizations like Toyota, American Airlines to help them create happier, healthier workplaces and more resilient employees through our neuroscience-based wellness programs. I'm actually a mechanical engineer by training, and it was my own experience of burnout in the corporate world that led me to discover for myself that health really begins in the brain. And I started this brain health journey almost 10 years ago, and I couldn't help but want to bring along other stressed out type A people like myself, share what I was learning, and maybe turn some skeptics into believers when it comes to mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and a lot of the soft skills practices that have really helped me actually be more productive and enjoy my life a lot more. So we work in terms of wellness programming, corporate wellness assessments, keynotes, leadership trainings. And Kevin and I were chatting a little bit beforehand. I really do have my dream job. And I try to remind myself on a daily, at least weekly basis, that I am so blessed to be able to share these practices that have changed my life with other folks in the business community.
Yeah, wonderful service you're providing. Tremendous service. So as you look at the growth of your business, Dorsey, what do you attribute your growth to?
That's a good question. I think when I think back along how I started, so when I first found meditation and started my brain health journey in 2015, and I left the corporate world a year later after doing some free classes for my colleagues. I was like, this is what I want to do. And I kind of jumped off the cliff without a parachute. I didn't have a business plan, didn't even have a second income stream when I left my tech salary to go to yoga and wellness and mindfulness. And so as I look back, I've had lots of failures, lots of lessons learned. I think that a lot of the growth I've experienced started by simply being open to it. So being willing to learn, to admit that I don't know everything, and to be able to turn to people in my life, in the mindfulness and business communities that I belong to, that know a lot more than I do. And once I learned to stop talking so much and start listening more and start trusting in the journey and the process, the growth that I experienced really started to skyrocket.
Thank you for sharing. It's very, very key points. Very key points. We have two eyes, two ears, and one mouth. Use them in the proportion we were given them, granted them. So on the growth side, what makes your business unique? Why is it that customers choose you and your business, Dorsey, over, say, others out there?
Yeah, Kevin. So I think when it comes to mindfulness, there are a lot of misconceptions about what it is. I know when I first started practicing, my dad, of all people, would go, "Namaste," and kind of laughed at me. He's like, "Mechanical engineering to yoga, what are you doing?" Just so many skeptics out there. And I don't blame them, because I think mindfulness and meditation either gets a bad rap, or people think they have to sit a certain way or make a certain hand gesture or have a perfectly calm mind. And so what we do differently at Mastermind is our clients are all typically stressed out type A people like myself, like my background. And so we make mindfulness really accessible. We give people a starting point to jump in, start practicing, maybe realize they're already practicing and they just don't know it. And in addition to making it accessible through storytelling and common humanity, we also bring in the neuroscience. So I went back to school to get a master's in neuroscience. I'm a mechanical engineer. As I mentioned, always been a skeptic, always been into kind of the research and scientific backing. So when I went back to school to get a master's in neuroscience and understand how the brain works, I realized that most of my clients aren't going to spend 3 years going through that kind of degree program, but they do want a user's guide to their brain, to the brain that we all have, right? So bringing mindfulness and wellness through a brain health and neuroscience perspective really resonates with a lot of our clients that might be finance firms or law firms or construction industries that maybe typically haven't embraced mental health and mental wellness, but we're able to do so in an accessible, science-based way that really speaks to these audiences.
Making accessible and science-based makes all the difference, because some of, like you said, construction companies, Be coming from a science side, they'll probably have a far better shot at have them sit down and say, all right, let's look at this and put it into play. So well done on that part. Very well done. Yeah, as we all know, mental health has definitely become more of a acceptable conversation piece in the last 4 years. And it's real. It's real. How we show up in the business in the morning and how we stay, our mindset stays, and our heart set stays throughout the course of the day makes a tremendous difference in our interactions and our achievement and our thinking. And do we come up with brilliant solutions for what comes up during the course of the day or not? Do we respond or do we react? Things like that. Yes?
Yes, that's very true, Kevin.
So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to just take a rabbit trail. I wasn't planning to until just now. How would you define mindfulness?
I like to think of mindfulness as paying attention to the present moment with curiosity and kindness. And so if you have a pet or a child in your life or you've been around one, you probably know that they just want to explore and touch and smell things, engage with their senses. They're not really rushed to get anywhere. They're in the moment and fully experiencing. I have a dog, a cat, and a baby. So I got a lot of this in my life right now. But I believe that as human beings, mindfulness isn't something we have to learn. It's almost something we have to remember. Back before all the stresses of the world, all of our conditioning got us to be so laser focused on doing the next thing or getting on autopilot and getting sucked into habit loops. Mindfulness practice is a way to be rather than do and pause and remember that place of openness, kindness, and curiosity that all of us have within us.
And when we ever be in the proper direction and proper frame, our do becomes far more effective. Yes?
Yes, exactly. Can we do from a place of being? That's my constant challenge running a mindful business. It's a lot of fun.
So how does self-awareness blend into mindfulness?
I'd say that it's a really key piece of mindfulness. In fact, as I look back at my journey and your first question around, how did you grow? How did you become open to learning and growing? That introspection piece of pausing and turning inwards rather than outwards is a big piece of mindfulness. And a synonym potentially for mindfulness is awareness. So it's awareness of ourselves, awareness of others. And so I would say that self-awareness is a natural, inherent component of mindfulness. And that's why mindfulness supports emotional intelligence, right? Because obviously with EQ, we've got to be aware of ourselves, our habits, our patterns, our thoughts, our emotions. And so that's why when I work with leaders and teach them, I was actually working with an executive this morning. And she was telling me she got this call from a client. She had this to do, this to do. And I said, can you just pause for a moment? And I took her through a short exercise I call the 3 R's for resilience. And I asked her afterwards, it's like, do you feel any different? She goes, oh, yes, it always helps just to stop. Right. And that's what mindfulness is. It's the stop, it's the pause, it's looking inwards, it's noticing rather than just continuing that doing that we all can do really well, right?
Yes. It's like driving and driving and driving without noticing where you're going. You end up going in a, in proper direction or whatever it might be. You're driving into something you don't want to be, or end up getting somewhere where you didn't think you were. So if you had to start your business from square one, Dorsey, what would you do? What would you do differently?
It kind of probably sounds cheesy to say nothing, but I'm not a big person for looking back and regrets and thinking I would have done something differently. The only thing that I wish looking back, I mentioned kind of jumping off the cliff without a parachute, kind of assembling the plane of a business on the way down. And it really took me about 4 years from leaving the corporate world in 2016 to really have a profitable business. And 2020 was the first year that we were profitable, and I could feel that engine turning and us making a difference and getting paid for it. And like there was a balance of energy exchange. And so those 4 years of what do I do? Should I go back and get a degree in neuroscience? Should I try this business? Do I need to go back to the corporate world? There was so much worrying and so much pressure that I put on myself to be immediately successful. And so as I look back, well, I wouldn't change that whole path because all of that learning is translated into the business and the life I have now. I would say that I wish I had trusted in that process of trial and error a little bit more and not put so much pressure on myself and so much focus on the results. But I wish I had been true to just continuing to do the right things consistently. It took a little while to start to see those as results, but when I focus on the footwork and doing the next right thing, the results really take care of themselves.
That is so true. The patient building of the business is sort of like building a brick building. I teach owners brick by brick. You have to have the mortar in, all that stuff. Like the blocks, bricks will be tilted and all that. It's just that patient process. Next, you know, you get a strong, stable business that'll withstand, economic earthquakes and hurricanes. So, yeah, very good. Well done. That consistency is so key. So as you look at balancing, you mentioned you've got child, you've got pets, you've got, life. How do you balance your personal life and the demands of running a business, Dorsey?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky. I have an amazing family support system. My wife is also a business owner, and we both love our two boys and we love our work. And we've put a system in place so that we have lots of support so that we can do the work we love and we can spend lots of time with our boys and with each other and with our family.
Mhm.
And Kevin, it's interesting because I got into this work of mindfulness and self-awareness and brain health through my own experience of burnout, right? And so it'd be really easy to be like, oh, I have this business that works. I'm going to dive back in and make the same mistake in a different business. And one of the biggest gifts of having my family life and being a new mom, I have a 1-year-old, is that it's really forced me to put one foot firmly in my family, in motherhood, and know that to do the work that I want to do, right? To show up as an authentic human, to practice mindfulness on a daily basis, to be in alignment with my core values, I have to have that family time and that balance to my work. It's what gives me credibility when I'm speaking to folks. What helps me be relatable to the executives and the leaders I work with who are also balancing family and work. So I truly think about mindfulness as, yes, it's my business, but it's really my life. And how can I practice what I preach? Not just say that and give lip service to it, but do I practice mindfulness in different forms every single day? Do I practice it in tough conversations with my wife? Do I practice it when I have an issue over a contract or someone that works with me, right? It's like, what does it really mean to be a mindful business? And so in terms of balancing work and home life, my best sort of philosophy around that is to be where my feet are. That means when I'm at home, my computer is away and I'm home. If I have to work or I get a call, then I step outside of our family area. I go up to our home office and I take care of that. And then I put that away and I come back downstairs and I'm with my family. I got to get out of the house. I got to come to this office, right? My baby's at home with our amazing nanny right now. That's such a luxury for me to have this time and space to have this conversation, focus on the work I love. And then I get to wrap that up here. And when I go home, I'm fully present with my family. So I'm not perfect, but I can always be moving towards balance and towards that practice of presence wherever I am and building a life that I love, not just a business.
It's interesting. One of the principles I teach my clients is the fact that the greatest present you can give your family and your loved ones is your presence, full presence, not just being physically in the same building called a house or home, be connected with, be in relationship with, be in conversation with. So one of the things we have our clients do is at the end of the day, just map out what they're going to do the next day, prioritize it, so they're able to leave their business behind versus having all those plates spinning in their head while they're trying to hold everything in their head about what they got to do the next day. Put it on a piece of paper in this particular form we've got. It works brilliantly. Now they can be present with. So business ought to give you more life while you own it. It really
Yeah,
ought.
it can be a lot of fun. And it's interesting you say that, Kevin, because that's just something that I've started playing with this year is the idea of done for the day and how can I have a list of the most important things. I'm never going to finish everything on my to-do list when I go to the office, but can I have a wrap-up process at the end of my workday where, like you said, I put, okay, here are the things for the next day so that I have a plan going in and I'm not constantly going back, to that thing I didn't finish, but I have a plan for it. Even if it's not done, it's not perfect, I have a plan. And that gives me that peace of mind that you mentioned that allows me to give that gift of presence to the people I love.
Then our mind can rejuvenate and regenerate while we're home as well,
Mhm.
because we're not trying to suspend all these things in our mind. We next day we pick up where we left off, and refreshed and so much more effective. And better to be around as well, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes, yep. So you've got some team members, contractors, folks like that. What qualities do you look for in your team members, and how do you foster a positive, productive work environment, Dorsey?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. I was lucky enough to work with a coach over the past few years
Hmm.
to help discern strategic objective for our business, so where we're headed, and core values that we represent as a business, and then hopefully as individuals in our lives, as well as when we're working with clients. And this has really given me a North Star in a sense when I'm looking at potentially working with new contractors or even collaborators in terms of partnerships, or honestly, even when I'm working with clients. I've learned, well, when I first started the business, it was all about, can I get any client? Now I look for the clients that I want to work with, that want to work with me, that are a good fit, right? So having these North Stars of core values and strategic objectives have really, really helped me. When I am looking specifically at people that I want to bring onto the mastermind team, the number one thing I'm looking for is somebody that can teach me something. So I don't want to bring in a mini Dorsey or someone that wants to be just like me. I want to bring in someone who is an executive coach, or who spent 10 years in a different industry, or who has a nutrition certification, or something that I don't have, so that I'm making our team and our expertise stronger when I bring them in. Another thing that's really important to me, besides obviously being smart and having good integrity, is someone that will take initiative. So in our business, there are a lot of moving parts, and we work with busy, stressed out clients who need mindfulness, but we all have a lot of things to do. And so it might be as simple as confirming we have the right Zoom link, right, to get on the call, or something like that. I want to work with people who will take initiative to confirm things, to go above and beyond, to be on the call a few minutes early. So they're really providing that safe space, that container for our clients, and prioritizing showing up in the best way possible, not just for our business, but because it's the right thing to do, and because they truly want to support people. So initiative is definitely a big thing that I look for as well.
Being proactive is so important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be thinking ahead, not reacting afterwards. So, as you think about the common misperceptions or misconceptions folks have about business, you know, what might you share with folks about what it really is like versus what people might think it is?
Yeah, as I reflect on this question, it's almost like there are two camps. There are people that think that running a business would be the hardest thing ever and they can never imagine it, or people who think it'd be so easy and how nice you can just do whatever you want to do all the time. And if you want to
Sure.
wear yoga clothes to work every day, you can, right? And so it's really, the reality is somewhere in between, right? That this work is, yes, growing this business, probably one of the top three hardest things I've ever done. And it's taken consistent vulnerability and courage and being willing to grow. And it's so aligned with who I am and what I feel that I'm meant to do in the world, that it's also really easy at the same time. And I relish the flexibility to spend, like this morning, I got to take my baby to breakfast and spend some time with a friend, right? I have other friends who are rushing to get to clock in or to have to be present on this video call, and I get that flexibility. But with that flexibility and getting to work with people comes additional responsibility. And it means that at the end of the day, I can't take a 6-month maternity leave unless I want to come back to a business that's lost a lot of its fire, right? And so I think it's somewhere in between, that running a business is the greatest gift. And it's also really hard. But as we talked about earlier, when we focus on kind of like building that brick wall, right, and putting pieces into place, I think anyone can do it. And what I would say is, I look back on my journey and how I got out of the corporate world without a second plan. I think most of the people I work with, and at Mastermind, we do have a facilitator certification. So we certify other people to be wellness facilitators. And one of the things I tell them to do is to start prototyping the life that they want now with small little steps. You can lay a lot of bricks even while you still have a 9 to 5 corporate job,
Sure.
right? You can start to make connections. You can take someone out to coffee who does what you think you want to do. You can start recording some meditations if that's what you want to do, right? There's so many things you can get on a podcast like this. There's so many things that we can do from where we are, and trust that we have something to offer, and that it takes courage to take those steps. But when we're in alignment with what we're meant to do, that some of those steps will come easier, and there'll be this sense of flow and joy from it that's not accessible when we're stuck doing what we think someone else wants us to do.
Amen to that. Fully agree. Fully agree. Well, Dorsey, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
I don't think so, Kevin. I'm just grateful for this opportunity to connect. And one of the best decisions I made as a business owner was to join groups with other business owners to share this sense of common humanity, right? That it can be so hard, but hey, there are other people doing it. You're not alone. And we're all on this journey, this roller coaster ride in a sense together. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to connect with other business owners. And I'd love to connect with more folks in the Dallas and Fort Worth area, especially. So I hope you'll reach out to us, mastermindmeditate.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Dorsey Standish, and let's get in touch and see how we can collaborate and support each other in our growth.
Dorsey, we really appreciate you contributing to the success of the business community. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin.